This is Kanji in Danzan-Ryu Jujursu. I'm your host, George Arrington. This is the beginning of a new series entitled Kiai No Maki. In this series, we're going to look at the kanji that were used for that particular course in Danzan-Ryu Jujursu. In this video, we're going to look particularly at the board name. This is a picture of the scroll that was given by Professor Okazaki to his second-degree black belts as they graduated from his dojo in Honolulu. It's often referred to as the Mokuroku or catalog scroll. In this series of videos, we're going to be looking at these characters, and in this particular episode, we'll be looking at this and this. So what is the board name for this particular course? Well, here it is from the scroll. And if we look at the printed version of this, it would look like that. The way we say that is ki, I, no, and maki. The Kiai No Maki. Ki means breath or spirit, or it can also mean mind. And I means unify or to fit together. And when taken together in this way, Ki is often thought of as the martial arts shout, the yell or shout that you hear when people are doing martial art techniques. The no character is a possessive particle in Japanese. It's similar to putting an apostrophe S on a word in English. It means it belongs to that thing. And then maki is a scroll or a book. Now the last characters we see here are the number of techniques. In this case, ni ju shichi hon, meaning 27 fundamentals. So here's a picture of the dojo of Professor Henry Okazaki in Honolulu. And as you see, the floor is covered with tatami mats. And along the top of the wall, there are calligraphies and pictures of various people. There's an American flag. And then there are these white painted planks, which were called boards on the wall. These contain lists of techniques that people would practice. When a student went in, if they were at a particular level, they would take one of these boards and set it up against the wall and then practice the techniques that are on that particular board. And so that's why we have come to call this these lists of techniques boards. For instance, this blue board that I'm highlighting here is the list of throwing techniques from Danzan-Ryu. And then this one in green is the list of submission holds, strangling holds, mat work, those sorts of things. That's the shime no kata. And then over on the other side is, in brown here, is the Kiai No Maki. And that's what we're going to be looking at in this series. So let's look at all the characters. Ki, first of all. Ki. Now this is the version of Ki that is the traditional version. There is a modernized version of Ki that we'll see in a minute, but this is the one that I typically use for Ki. The stroke order is as follows, and I'll use my laser pointer here to show you these. So the first stroke goes down at an angle, and then 2 and 3 are straight across, 2, 3, And then 4 starts going straight across, but then it dips down and then has a little kick up at the end. So that's all 4. That's all stroke number 4. 5 goes this way, 6 goes this way, 7 goes straight across, 8 goes straight down, and then 9 and 10 are at angles, going downward. Now here's the modernized version of key. So you'll see this sometimes, and they mean exactly the same thing. It's just that this one is part of the modernized version of a lot of the characters. The stroke order is the same at the beginning. We go 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and a little kick at the end. But then for the inner part of that, it's simply 5, 6. So they simplified it by taking off several of the characters there, or several of the strokes there. So now if we look back at the other version, I'm going to highlight here in blue the inner portion of the key. So this particular part, or this particular character, if taken by itself, could be pronounced as be, be, be. And what does it mean? Well, it can mean rice. It can mean beautiful. And when used in beautiful, the Japanese term for beautiful kingdom is the USA, Beikoku. Now, an interesting application of that, if you just see the bay by itself, oftentimes it will mean America, the United States. And one place that you see that, for instance, in San Jose, California, there's a store called Nichibei Busan, and what that means is Japan, that's a Nichi, Nichibei, Japan, America, and Busan means products. So this is a store that sells Japanese goods. So that's a store that's in San Jose, California. So now what are we left with? Well, we're left with this character without the rice in the middle, and it by itself would be pronounced as ki. And it could mean breath or energy. And it's also, if you combine it with other things, it's the steam radical. So if you have something that has to do with steam, you would use this radical. In fact, the character for steam by itself, which is also pronounced ki, is this character. And if you notice here, here is the radical that we see over here. And then we see these 3 dots here, 1, 2, and then the kick up for that. Those 3 characters are the radical for water. So water plus energy, what do you get? You get steam. So now let's look at I. E is pronounced I. The stroke order looks like this. It comes down 1 and 2. That's, I always think of that as like a roof. And then there's a straight line for 3 that goes straight across horizontally. And then the bottom part is a mouth. It goes 4, 5 goes across and then down, and then 6 goes straight across. So that's the stroke order for I. Now, some of the applications where you might see this particular character are as follows. This says kai, kai go, and that means a meeting or assembly. So you may have a meeting, you go to your kaigo. It also could be used this. So martial artists might recognize this term. This is the term shiai. Shiai. and that is, of course, is a tournament. Now, in the previous one, notice that you use the term goal for this character I, but here in tournament you see that it's she I, so it's the same pronunciation. Oftentimes, Japanese characters will have multiple pronunciations. All right, here is the character no, and the stroke order for this goes as follows. You start up here, you go straight down, well, at an angle, you go down, and then you make a circle like this, and you stop right about there. For beginners to Japanese writing, this one tends to be a little bit tricky, and oftentimes people will make this with the wrong size of curve. They might come in too shallow here or go out too far here. So it takes a little bit of practice to get this one down and over. So you just have to practice it over and over again. Now the next kanji we see is maki, and this is the term um, for a scroll. And the stroke order is as follows. It goes 1, 2, and then it goes down to these two horizontal lines, 3 and 4, and then we do the slanted lines. 5 comes way down like that, and 6 comes across like that, and then 7 goes straight across and then down a little bit. Then for 8 we come back to here and go across from left to right, and then 9 goes down and across with a little kick up at the end. Now, some applications of maki. This is makimono, which literally means a rolled up thing, and that is a physical scroll. So if you have a physical scroll, like the Mokoroku scroll that we saw at the beginning, that would be technically called a makimono. It is a rolled up thing or a scroll. Another thing that you want to be careful of is here, this particular version of maki. This is pronounced maki as well, and it's similar to this one. Here, I'll point out this one. It's similar, but notice that these kind of go down and out, whereas these go down and in. This maki means to wind something up, so it's a similar meaning, but it's a different character. And in fact, if you're familiar with the throwing technique called maki komi, this is the character that's used for maki komi rather than this one. So the last part of the picture that we looked at is called Niju Shichi-hon. Niju Shichi-hon. And what this literally means is 27 fundamentals. The stroke order looks like this. Very simply, 1, 2, so that's ni, which means 2. This one, you go straight across and then straight down. That means 10. So 2 and a 10 together mean 20. And then this character, you go across. And sometimes you'll see this as kind of going up like that. But make it that way, almost straight across. And then down, across with a little kick. And that's the character for 7. So 20 and 7 is 27. And then finally, we have this character for hon, which means basic or fundamental, which goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you stop there, that's the character for tree. and then you add this last character, number 5, which goes across like that. So this is the character Hon, which means fundamental or basic. Now I'll leave you with one thing here for you to research. That is Kiai versus Aiki. So Kiai looks like this, where you have the Ki character and then the I character. But if you talk about things like Aikido or Aikijutsu, the same characters are used, except in reverse order. So you might ask yourself, well, what is the relationship between these? Are they the same? Are they different? Well, that's something I'll leave to you to research, but I'll give you a source where you will actually find the answer. And this is a book written by a friend of mine named Forrest Morgan called Living the Martial Way. It's an excellent book. It contains a lot of very deep insight into martial arts. Um, there's a whole lot of stuff there. I won't go into all of it here, but it is very, very good. And one of the chapters has this particular topic of the difference between Ki and Aiki, and I highly recommend getting this book. The other book that I'll recommend is my book called Mokoroku and Kaiden Sho, the official documents of Danzan-Ryu Jujursu. It's available at Amazon, and it has translations of several of the scrolls, complete translations with not only the pictures of the scrolls, but also the Japanese characters and the way that they are pronounced and the translation of those. It also has the translation of the Kaiden Sho, the document that was the graduation certificate from the famous 1948 class that Professor Okazaki did. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and stay tuned and watch for the next episode in this series.